All right. We are now excited to hold a sibling panel with a great group of siblings, moderated by Denise Dortch, the founder of Special Needs Siblings. Jeniece is the amazing mother of 5 children, one of which has disabilities. She started her organization with both parents and siblings in mind, and the mission is to empower and embrace families by providing education, resources, and support programs. Jeniece has helped lead 4 BIPOC sibling roundtables since November of 2020, a series of sibling discussions dedicated to expanding the inclusion and diversity of the sibling support community. We're grateful to have Jeniece with us today to kick off the sibling panel.
Thank you, Katie, for that warm introduction. And I am so grateful to be here with you guys today. And I'm so excited to bring our siblings on board. Please excuse my mess. There's a house full of children. There's 6 of them. So it's always a little bit, it's a lot going on, but I'm really excited to be here to talk to the siblings. I am a parent, so I'm always coming in to listen and to learn a little bit more. Let's see, do we have everybody? Okay, we're adding all of our siblings. I'm gonna wait for them to all join in and allow them to introduce themselves, and then we're gonna get to the nitty gritty and the fun stuff. A whole bunch of questions. Hello, siblings. I have seen you all before. These members have been a part of our BIPOC series, the BIPOC panel that we have, roundtables that we have hosted in partnership with the Sibling Leadership Network and the Sibling Support Project, thanks to Lisa and Emily, who are both on the board for the Sibling Leadership Network. These are incredible siblings that we've met over since November of 2020. And so I want to go ahead and get in and have them introduce themselves. Atikah, let's start with you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No. Is it me?
Is that better?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's my headphone.
It's okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, different part of the world. My name is Atikah. I am originally from Indonesia, but now I live in Michigan. I am a PhD student in Human Development and Family Studies, and on a daily basis, I'm a research assistant. I have a younger brother with autism. It was his birthday 2 days ago, and he just turned 26.
Well, happy birthday to him. Thank you for being here. Donna, let's go with you next.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Adana Avapro. I am an equity and family engagement facilitator for Lake Washington School District in Redmond, Washington State. And for me, I have 2 siblings with disabilities. My younger brother's autistic. He's 27. And then I have a younger sister. She has a developmental delay, and I just also celebrated her birthday on Wednesday. She just turned 5. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all so much.
Well, the birthday is going around. June is a popular month. A lot of celebrations. Happy birthday. Thanks, Adana. Karree, let's go with you.
Hello, can you hear me all right? My name is Karree. I'm from Oregon. I'm currently just a university student, so I don't really have a job yet, but I'm hoping to be a clinical psychologist in the future. I'm a first-generation Cambodian American, so my parents were refugees who fled the Cambodian genocide, which ended in 1979, so it's still kind of recent, and they killed essentially like 3.5 million people. My brother is on the lower end of the autism spectrum. He is nonverbal, and he is 2 years younger than me, and I am currently 20.
Welcome, Karree, welcome. Thank you for being here. Kimrah, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I am Kimrah Brotherson. I am in Fairbanks, Alaska. the guardian of one of my special needs siblings. So she lives with me. And then I also found out my little brother is undergoing or has autism as well. I am currently pursuing my doctorate degree in business. So that's me currently just working with my sister.
Welcome, Kimrah, welcome. I'm so glad you're here again. And Richard, let's go with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Mullen, and I am a sibling. I also work with the Arc of King County as their outreach and advocacy coordinator, but my main emphasis is building supports for African American and BIPOC families and communities. So that's a passion, that's a love of mine. And there are so many levels to that type of support, but I am just so thankful for the Siblings Leadership Network. This has just been a phenomenal space. In November, since November, I've been welcomed in with open arms and just really, really blessed by it. So I'm really happy to be here. And thank you, Jeniece.
You are welcome, Richard. I'm so grateful for all of you guys being here today. We have a short amount of time and we want to get to it. So let me just go ahead and start with the first question. I'm going to address it to Atikah first, since she introduced herself first, but we can all go ahead. I just want to go, I say, in the same order that we just did our introductions in. Now, Atikah, what are some challenges and opportunities that your sibling disability or illness caused for you growing up?
Maybe I should start with my brother's characteristic first, because everyone has different ones. So he doesn't have a behavior challenges now, though he had it when he was younger. He has some speech challenges, but he's able to communicate through writing, and some of his speech are clear. So I feel like my brother's autism is not the issue. The issue is the lack of resources for him and for us as a family unit. That created the challenges around the family dynamic, because when we needed that outside support, we didn't get it. And maintaining the resilience as a family unit became a challenge because of that. And it leads to my parents relying on me for caretaking and having other responsibilities beyond my age at the time. I love my brother. We have a great relationship. And I think this is the most important part. I want to do these things. I want to take care of him. So because I want these things, I want to be his caretaker. That also it requires me to be in Indonesia. That's because where my family is. And me being here, being myself, chasing my own dream, makes me have that guilt of not being there. And just constantly, questioning myself if it's even okay to have those two wants, like being myself and being what I want to be, and actually being a caretaker of my brother. But there are a lot of other opportunities. I feel like I am what I am and I do what I do because of my brother. Because of that lack of resources, my parents have their own school in Indonesia for children with disabilities. So I grew up with the disability community and saw that small advocacy and big advocacy in that different form, what it looks like. I understand what it takes to successfully work with children with disabilities because I grew up with good teachers and therapists that works with my brother. Watch my mom train people how to work with my brother. I helped her make accommodations and modifications when he was in school, things like that. And that leads me going to special education and work with adults and children with the different abilities. And now I'm doing research on how to support family members of children with disabilities, creating training and that coaching materials, both for family and professionals.
Thank you, Atikah. Thank you. Adanna?
Thank you, Atikah. I resonated a lot with what you said and everything. So for me, I'm a first generation Nigerian American woman. My family, my parents emigrated from Nigeria back in the late 80s. So I'll talk about my brother a little bit first. So my brother, his name's Amanze, and as I mentioned, he's autistic. And so for him growing up, he did have some behavioral challenges for him, and still kind of now, but for him, he definitely had his tantrums, like when being around crowds, it was very hard for him. He had some sensory issues too. And my mom was a single mom. And so when my brother was diagnosed when he was 2, there's a lot of challenges there because my mom, she had no idea what autism was. Growing up in Nigeria and certain parts of Nigeria, it's a taboo to talk about disability. It's considered a shameful thing, or it's considered a sin that like you did something in your past life, and that's why your child currently has a disability. And so with my mom, there was a lot of mixed emotions she had. She was afraid. She was scared. She was thinking that, did I do something wrong during my pregnancy? Like, who can support me? And so there was a lot of challenges in the sense where she did not have that knowledge. She didn't have those resources there. She had to go out and look for those. She had a background in banking and finance when she went to school. But then because of my brother's diagnosis, she decided to completely change it so that way she could learn more about this disability. So she became a nurse and worked at UW, connected with other folks at University of Washington's Medical Center. And it helped her a lot to understand more about disability. And so, but then once she was able to do that and everything, she felt like she had more of a hold on how to support him. And with me being the oldest in my family, I had to also take that responsibility, like Atikah, like you mentioned, and making sure that I could support my brother in any way. And it was a lot of pressure in a sense because for me, my mom never like sat down with me and talked to me about my brother's disability that I can remember. It was just more like, you know that your brother's autistic, he has autism, you have to support him. You're the oldest, you have that responsibility. And I just had that on. But as I got older, I did see that it was a lot of pressure because I wanted to make sure I was helping my mom. I wanted to make sure I was supporting him. But it gave me that sense. But the opportunities that came about that is the fact that I wanted to learn more about how I can support the disability community, especially those that are like my family, immigrants, and trying to understand how they can gain that knowledge, gain those resources, and how to navigate those resources. So with my background, because of my brother's disability, it helped me to understand, okay, I could be a caregiver for him. I was also a caregiver for other folks with disabilities. I was also a case manager recently for DDA, Developmental Disabilities Administration, supporting older adults with disabilities, understanding the system, understanding like supported living, the different waivers. And it made me realize like there's so much to learn, but it was very great for me to learn. It made me very passionate about how I can support my brother and support other folks with disabilities. Then when my younger sister, I'm sorry, going back to my brother, like now with him growing up, he's 27 now, and he doesn't have that many behavioral challenges compared to what it was before. For him, I call him a gentle giant. Like he's like 6'3". He is so sweet, so friendly, but I try in all my power to make sure I can support him. And then when my sister was born, I learned a little bit more again about her disabilities, having developmental delay, having some mobility issues, and being able to now have the knowledge I have now to be able to even help her even more so now with trying to get DDA services, like helping my dad with that, helping him with getting eligibility, helping him find support. And so for me, I just feel like as much as there are challenges like with behaviors that they both have had and still have, those lack of resources, even though those are there, I feel like the opportunities that came about is just being able to use what I know and my passion to be able to help others around me. And I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you, Adana. Thank you so much. It sounds like resources and connections is a very similar, we're hearing that a lot right now. Kimrah, I just want to remind everybody of the question I asked, just in case you forgot, because this is some serious stuff that we're getting into. And I appreciate both of your honesty and transparency to be able to share with us. The question is, what challenges and opportunities did your siblings' disability or illness cause for you growing up or even now? Kimrah? Oh, I'm sorry, Karree. We went this way. Sorry about that. Karree, go ahead.
Well, Adana, I just felt like you just like read my life story, honestly. Like I felt that exact same thing. Like my mom believed that exact same thing, that it was like her past life, that my brother did something in his past life to be autistic. And obviously that's not something that's really true. So that used to cause like a lot of conflicts with me and my family, honestly. Like To be honest, I felt very embarrassed when I was like growing up of my sibling, because my brother always had like tantrums. We couldn't really go to movies because he would always be screaming and yelling and just flailing his arms everywhere. And it was just hard because, you know, in an Asian collectivistic society, we try to like blend in and not stick out as much. But my brother couldn't really blend in per se. And this was really hard because we were also minorities, so people looked at us even more kind of weird. And it just, I very much like identify with a lot of what you guys have been saying, like having to take care of my brother. Like I was definitely what we call the parentified child, where I was always just taking care of him, and I was the oldest, and it was hard because my brother is nonverbal, so I couldn't really communicate with him, and there was just such a lack of a strong sibling relationship. And it was hard because we were the only siblings. Like it was just me and my brother. I didn't really have anyone else to talk about with this. I didn't have any connections growing up. I didn't know anyone who had a sibling with a disability. My parents didn't really talk about it because it's kind of taboo and for mental health in our community, which was even harder because our family literally went through a genocide. Like that is such a big thing, but it was still hard because of the cultural stigma because of this. And my dad didn't even want another child because he was scared of the next child having autism, and that made me so sad to hear, because he actually brought this up when he came to my therapy session, and it just kind of broke my heart that that was kind of the reason why. But as for opportunities, I definitely grew bigger in my identity. Like I felt stronger, more confident. I met more people. Like I've seen Atikah a few times during some random things, and I'm like, hey, it's her. So it's kind of cool to see familiar faces and, you know, just kind of be friends a little bit with some people who are also siblings. And I just feel more confident speaking about it. Like I spoke at the BIPOC roundtable, as some of you may have seen me. I'm part of the Parenting Special Needs magazine. I was featured around there, so that was really cool to be on a magazine. So that was cool. And most importantly for me, the first time I spoke about my brother was the Cambodian Student Association at my school's culture show. And they were interviewing Cambodian Americans, and I spoke about my brother for the first time. And it was scary because although right here, they're all strangers, you guys kind of all mainly strangers to me, but back there, everyone knew me, and I was scared to bring that up. And I spoke about it, and I got so much love. And even someone from another Cambodian student association from another state, they told me how they felt heard and seen because of me just sharing my story. And on SIB 20, I shared my story online, and there was this girl who was not Asian, but their family was from Nigeria. But she told me how this was the first time she was posting, and she just started posting about her life because of me. So it's cool to have people to like inspire someone else to share their story when this was like so hidden, so secretive, for me to like feel so ashamed of my sibling, my story and everything. But I feel so happy to like inspire others and speak to all of you. Like I'm here, I'm at the Sibling Leadership Network conference. Like that's so cool. This is a national big thing. So I'm very grateful. So that's the opportunity.
Thanks, Karree. And we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. Kimrah?
Hello. So most of my challenges is realizing that I'm not alone in, you know, this journey. You know, having a special needs sister that's, you know, 10 years younger than me, and now I'm her guardian. Just, you know, awareness was another challenge growing up. So now that I'm her guardian, is just making sure I'm constantly out there finding the resources. And now, you know, she's old enough to actually tell me what she wants. So making sure I incorporate that into, you know, her daily living and the wants and the needs that she, you know, she wants to live on her own, and, you know, try to make that go for her. So it's just, you know, we're all working together, and, you know, so another opportunity, currently I am working at an assisted living home. So, you know, working with people, individuals with special needs and disabilities. So that, you know, helps give me the education and, you know, things to look out for.
Thanks, Kimrah. Thank you. Richard?
I would say challenges, well, they really started early on. I can think back as far as when I was 6 years old, and we moved out here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Came from a really culturally diverse community. Like we lived on 34th and Park Avenue, which is like in the city, and moved to Des Moines, Washington, which is very white and great. But there, it came with all of its challenges around just being in a community as a brown Black family. One, navigating just how things worked at that time, and then also having a brother with developmental disabilities. It's a privilege to not have to weigh in on so many conversations at such an early age. But I can remember back to, age, 10, when, I'm out in the neighborhood with my brother, and I had to defend him, or had to explain, or had to, and no one trained me on, so if someone asks you what's going on with your brother, this is what you tell them. There wasn't right now we have all these diagnoses, and this is the spectrum, and all that. There wasn't any of that. And so I would say that was challenging. It was hard a lot of times. And I can also say the benefit from that is it's put, a fight in me to advocate now that I am more equipped with information and have more connections to different communities. And I'm exposed to diverse communities that want to know, how can we help? How can we, come together? So that's, now that I have focused, reflected on my past and brought that into the future, the benefit is that we get to grow as a community. And like the Siblings Leadership Network, like I'm amazed by this. Like I'm still in awe of the fact that there are so many people that have similar experiences myself that are from different backgrounds. And so, yeah, I think those both work hand in hand.
Thank you. Thank all of you guys, because that was a lot. Those are two separate ends of a challenge and opportunity, but it gives us a lot to think about. And from the training to the support to the resources, you guys have really got our minds thinking in ways that we can do better, I think. I know that's for myself. Next question. What comes to mind when you think about you and your siblings' future? Atikah, we're gonna go with you.
Oh, when I got this question, I had one sentence in mind, that he's going to stay with me. I think basically it's because culturally, in Indonesia, we don't have what you guys have here in the US. We're not as developed in that field as of yet. So just talking about this part makes my heart goes very fast. It's because he's back home in Indonesia and I'm here, and that separation between me as myself and me as a sibling, I think plays a big role in that. It's my whole identity, but at the same time, what comes first? So if I were to stay here, if I pursue the profession that I aim for, which is a faculty position, I want to work in a university, I bring my brother here. That's I think my priority as for right now, because of the resources that we have here. So I'm gonna try my very best. And I'm more versed with it here because of my field. I used to work in special ed, and I work with adults with disabilities, and now I work with the family unit. So I try to get as many resources as I can, so I can support my brother in that way later. But if that doesn't come to fruition, I would have to go back to Indonesia, and I have to figure out my life from the start. And then at the same time, figuring out how my brother's life going to merge into mine, things like that. It's just, there's a lot of complication that I feel personally being in in my position when it comes to this question. But I guess in a way it does help that my parents are starting to realize that I'm an adult now. I've been an adult for a while, but for my parents, it's like, oh, she's, you know, she's still in school. Maybe that's what they think. But I talked to my dad that don't worry about him. He's gonna be with me. And my mom is starting to get into that conversation, you know, financially, this is what we have in plan. So, and I've known this, that they don't want to make me feel that I have to provide for my brother 100%. And that comes with privileges. Yes, I understand. And my parents are in middle SES, and they've been saving and they've been planning for my brother, even though it was without me. But now they are starting to merge that information, and like little by little, I think step by step, you know, baby steps for them to tell me that, oh, this is the plan. This is the plan. I need you to know you're the oldest child, and this is going to be the resources that we have provided for you. I think that, yeah, I think that's what I have for that, Jeniece.
Thank you, Atikah. Thank you. And as a parent, like, I'm listening, and I hope that parents and providers are also listening, and that we're coming in here silent and just ready to take it in. So I appreciate you for that vulnerability and that honesty. Adana?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Wow. So for me, if you had asked me this question, like when, let's say I was like a teenager when I was younger, you know, for me, I always knew that my brother would live with me. When, you know, my mom would talk about it since I was like maybe 7 or 8. And I even remember offering my mom, like, oh yeah, Amonte's going to live with me. He's going to be there. Like, of course, like that's no question. But as I get older, and now that I am providing for myself, I am taking care of myself, I'm thinking, wow, that actually is a very scary thought. Like, I'm looking at the chat right now, and I'm seeing people saying, you know, that's a trigger, thinking about the future. I completely agree. That is a very big trigger for me, because I'm anxious just even thinking about the question and trying to formulate an answer. So for me, you know, when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, like I'm 29, my brother's 27, like it's starting to come about. Like, we have to really think about his future. Like, you know, Kimrah, I know you said that you're a guardian for your sister. Like, I'm not even a guardian for my brother yet, but I know that's something that I've talked to my mom about, that it has to happen. And my mom always knew, like, yeah, Amonze is not going to be put in like a supported living home or an agency, whatever you want to call it, you know, but then, and I'm like, yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, he's going to be with me. But then I also think about too, like, I want to make sure that, and she also does too, doesn't want to put too much pressure on me, or put too much responsibility on me. And so now that I am in a relationship and everything, like me and my partner, we've talked about, yeah, so how can we make sure that we're thinking about Amonze's future, like him living with us, but he's also having his independence? Because y'all, like, he grew up with, you know, the single mom, me, and my other sister. He was surrounded by women. So like my partner, he was thinking like, wouldn't it be nice for him to like have his own space, you know, not to be with so many women? Like, let him have his own space. Let him be a man, you know? And like, he was like kind of joking when he said that, but he also was like, but yeah, no, think about that though. Like, maybe we could like have his own apartment. Maybe we can like hire someone to take care of him. But then part of me, like being first generation, I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I can trust someone to come into his home and thinking about that. But then, yeah, I do want him to have his independence. So me thinking about that, it's still something that I still think about a lot. And I appreciate y'all in the chat, like sharing, you know, your vulnerability and your feelings and tearing up and crying, because it's a real thought. And then now that I have my little sister, and she's only 5. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, what's going to happen for her? Like, I mean, because we have the same dad, not the same mom, but like she's a lot younger than me. So I have to think about her. And I have to think about like what can happen in that way. So it's very complicated, very multifaceted. It's something that I feel like I have to constantly think about. But yeah, my thing is I just want to make sure my siblings just have a fulfilling future like anybody else. And I want to make sure I can do right by them in that way.
Thanks, Adana. Thank you. I see everybody in the chat, and I'm so grateful that you guys are all talking to each other and you're actually getting something from this, because this is a powerful conversation and these are questions that need to be asked and that should be asked in safe space. So this is a judgment-free zone. Just a reminder, this is a conversation and it's a judgment-free zone. So there's not a right or wrong answer here. We're just hearing each other's stories and we're hearing our hearts. Karree?
Yeah, growing up, like even when I was like 6, I knew like I had to take care of my brother. Like as a 6-year-old, I was like, I know, it's just and that's such a big weight for like a kid to grow up knowing this. And thinking about like my family passing away and then I'll be the sole caretaker. Like there's no other sibling, there's no one else. It's just me. And I have to hold that responsibility to like, it's like your family is like honor, it's like that culture. And it's kind of sad, but like my grandma, like my mom told me that once my grandma passes away, who watches my brother, my mom plans to like quit her job to just take care of him full time. And I kind of brought this up for the first time in this like one of the breakout groups, but and I haven't really told anyone in like real life mainly, but I kind of had a taste of this because of COVID, actually, because there was like no social workers that could like watch over my brother due to COVID. My mom just went part-time instead, so she had to cut back her hours instead of doing full-time. So I tasted a little bit of what that was kind of like, and it was kind of just like overwhelming a little bit, honestly, that like, wow, my mom really had to do that because there's no one else to watch my brother, and we can't, he's vulnerable to the COVID and those type of things. So it was really hard. And it was just, and I know like growing up, like my brother can't actually like function on his own. Like he cannot independently function on his own. There needs to be someone to watch him, whether it's me or someone else, such as like he can't shower on his own, he cannot drive. And to be honest, I don't even know if he can really get a job, to be honest, because I don't know if he can be able to do that. And there's just so many like little things I worry about in the future, like oh, I have to tell my spouse that I have like an autistic brother, that because I'm like scared of that, like I'm worried about that. Like, will my spouse judge me for this? Like, if I have to take care of my brother, my spouse has to know that about this. Like, is this like a deal breaker? Do I have to bring this up early? Like, even though like I'm like 20, like, like I'm thinking about these things, and it's just so crazy. And like Adana, like I'm worried about the group home. Like I feel like, I don't know, I can't trust people. I'm scared about that. And it's just, I don't know if it's like something culturally or just like everything. Like not exactly fully sure, but it's just scary thinking about the future. Like I would cry thinking about the future when I was younger, still do, but there's just so many factors, like, because like, there's people who are like, oh, don't worry about the future. But I'm like, I have to think about this, And my parents are always like, don't think about it. It's like, it's later. But I'm like, I have to think about it. There's like no way I can't. So yeah, thinking about the future is honestly quite scary for me, like many of you guys in the chat are saying. But yeah.
Thanks, Karree. Thank you. Kimrah?
Here you said the word, like the bold word that I put right next to future, scary. It's also, a happy place for me too. I actually stepped up. My parents are in DC and I'm in Alaska, and I took guardianship over my sister maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I was the one that said, send my sister here because I'm able to give her the attention and everything she needs. So when I think of future, I think after me, like what happens to her after, if something were to happen to me. And, it definitely does bring tears to my eyes, but, I'm looking for different resources, set up an ABLE account, just to make sure she's taken care of. I'm looking at different homes right now because, listening to the things that she wants, I'm trying to educate her as well, because she is a vulnerable adult. She has found herself in situations, and luckily I was there to help get her out of those. But, just trying to make sure you do pick, the right home or the caretakers that are going to be around, and, making sure people that, your direct support system is aware, don't be afraid, because one day you might be at work and, something's going on and someone has to step up for you. So it's definitely scary, but yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Kimrah. Thank you. Richard, I know your sibling has passed away, but I still would like for you to answer the question because you are actually in the space of resources, and these are definitely feelings. And you probably had this, just thoughts and seeing that and connecting with other families. So if you could give us your feedback as well.
Absolutely. I would say that it's really hard to think about what life would have been like if my brother hadn't passed away. So, I long for that. So that's the dynamic is for him to still be here. He passed away when I was 14. He was 24. And I'm the youngest of three brothers. So I still have two living brothers, but he and I had such a special relationship, a unique relationship. He taught me so much. And I feel like life taught me so much, just that having the family dynamic and community dynamic, it came with its challenges. But I would say that this is kind of what's given me more desire to really be a support. It's why I do what I do. You have your job and then you have your work. And I feel like supporting siblings is a part of my work. It's not just something that I clock in and clock out to do because of the anxiety that I'm sensing in the chat and the uncertainty. And I just really feel like all of us together need one another in one, being able to talk about these things and vent. So I feel honored to be able to listen and to add whatever value that I can, because it's hard to imagine having to take care of another adult while being an adult and having a family. And so I just want to say that I'm very, very honored to be among this group. And those are my thoughts for now.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you. And all of your feelings are so valid. So I think that that's a reminder. And even just reading through the chat right now, my heart is so full. And I know you all are too, because every one of your experiences matter and they're touching somebody that's listening right now. Okay, another question. In retrospect, what do you think your parents did especially well to meet your needs and to help your family adapt to your siblings' special needs? And what things do you think they could have done differently? Atikah?
So there were a couple of things. I think one of the most important thing was that I grew up with books, and that was my coping mechanism. And my parents would let me get and read whatever books I want. And so I think the important thing is that they gave me access to that coping mechanism. That was helpful when I feel frustrated, when I just don't feel heard that day at that moment. I just go run to something that was very accessible to me, and my parents would just, yeah, sure. So giving me access to that, my own coping mechanism, my definition of coping mechanism, not my parents, not my brothers, not everyone else's, that was very helpful. Also building relationship with other adults than my parents, like my cousins, my aunt, uncles, grandparents. I feel like they held an important part in my mental health when I was younger, because I was able to ask them stuff if I needed anything when my parents were busy. And for adapting to my brother's special needs, they let me watch and they let me involve. They involved me in things very early on. So let it be therapy sessions, doctor appointments. They brought me to conferences. I grew up going to conferences, and that time we lived in Texas for about 2 years. And I could still remember going up to the speaker after the talk and let them know that I'm the sister, that I am here. And they would appreciate, oh, okay, so it's you brought your child? And this is, a conference about picky eaters or things like that. I remember those, and I think it led up to the point where, yeah, I'm used to it. Like that really helped me knowing a lot more, I think, than my peers, especially in that age. They really give me a lot of that info. Things that I wish that my parents had done differently is to let me be myself in a way that I'm my own person, and to think for myself, about myself. Because my whole identity since childhood was a sister first. So I had a hard time separating that. Now it's grown more. Well, I think it was more permanent when I was in bachelor's and my master's, that because we had that school too, and my mom's expectation is for me to come back with a lot of information that I can help so many people, and whatever question they have, I can answer that. But it's not really my own interest. It's not the things that I want to focus on, like professionally. So like separating that, like I had a very hard time. Still working on it. But yeah, because of that, I always put myself in the back seat. I always try, okay, what do people want to know? I have to know the answer. What does my parent need right now? I need to be there firsthand. And even though I was in such, maybe like not in a position to do that, I will always try to be the person who can help, who can be the resource, who can, be that shoulder, something like that. But it is a constant struggle to tell myself that it's okay to not be that person. I have my limits, and knowing that, I think it would have helped when it started when I was younger, because it's definitely complicated to start when you are an adult. Yeah.
Thanks, Atikah. Thank you. Adana?
Sorry, having trouble with the unmute button. But yeah, I think what my parents did a good job with meeting my needs is allowing me to do like different things outside of being a sibling. So like when growing up, I did a lot of extracurricular activities. Like I was in lots of sports, like track, volleyball, basketball, softball. I did a lot of after school activities like National Honor Society, Key Club, all these different things. And I felt like, they knew how much I liked just being active, and they were very receptive to that, and they were very, it made me very thankful to be a part of that. Like with all, like me and all my siblings, we like all did our own thing. Like, we did all these different activities, and it made me very happy. And also knowing, like Atikah, like you were mentioning, like being in the process of knowing about my brother and my sister's disabilities, and learning more about how I can support, how I can be there for them, like knowing about like what their disability is. Because like, again, like my mom did not know about my brother's disability. My dad didn't really know much about my sister's disability. And so being able to be a part of that process was great, or is great. Now, the downfall of that for me is just the fact that since I am the oldest sibling, I had a lot of pressure to making sure that I took care of them and took care of everybody. Like fun fact, like my name Adanna, like the prefix Ada is given to the oldest daughters in a Nigerian household. Like my name means daddy's first girl because of the first daughter born, but Ada is given to the oldest daughters. And so it's like, you could say like I was destined to be the caregiver of my family, but it was hard. It is hard. And it took me a really long time, and I still work on it to try to separate myself being my individual person, and not just the caregiver, not just the older sister, not just the one that takes care of everybody, and just trying to have my own identity. It's very difficult. And I know for all of you who are siblings, you all can resonate with the fact that we have a lot on our plate when it comes to being our siblings, but also too, it's it's a blessing, but also can have its challenges too. But it's like, this is why we're here though, to make sure that we can connect with one another and everything. And I just like, I wish my parents kind of understood like how hard it can be. And so this just being able to talk to other siblings and knowing that I'm not the only one who is dealing with this is very, very admirable. And I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it can be hard sometimes having that role.
Thanks, Adana. Thank you. Karree?
I don't really know if this is like the best thing per se, but because my parents kind of like neglected me a lot because they had to focus their attention on my brother, which is totally understandable. I knew why. They kind of like replaced that, like, because they couldn't spend time with me, with like money, like buying things for me, like, oh, here you can go get McDonald's, oh, you can go buy this thing, you can go hang out with your friends or whatever. And but I think something that I would have liked more differently is just like having taken one-on-one time with me, or like just hanging out with my parents and I, not with my brother. And I guess it's a little bit selfish to not include my brother, but we would always include him in everything. Whenever we had to go somewhere, we always had to bring him. And sometimes we had to cancel those things or like leave halfway because of the tantrums. And I think it would have been nice to like just hang out with my parents and kind of just like continue that bond with just me and them for once. Like just not having to think about my brother a little bit, even though it might be a little bit selfish, but it could be just like once a month. I think that could have been nice to have instead.
Thanks, Karree. And that's not selfish at all. That's not selfish. Thank you. Kimrah?
All right, so with my mother being military, or previously being in the military, I would say I got a lot of natural supports, in the home, as far as learning discipline and, taking care of the house. Again, I relate with a lot of us here on the panel. And I am also, the first daughter, the oldest daughter. So it's, I had that natural, instinct to just take over. When my parents weren't home, I had to take my sister everywhere with me. So it's just, what my parents probably could have done better was to try and, give me a little away time. But now it's like, I'm still doing the same thing. So it probably wouldn't have worked. I enjoy working with my sister and going places with her. She wants to go and, to the concerts and things like that. So I've taken her, she wants to feel like an adult. So a lot of my, challenges or my experiences have helped, form what's going on today. So.
Thanks, Kimrah. Thank you. Richard?
I would say one of the things I really feel like my parents did really well in a pretty full house as far as I'm concerned, having three brothers. They didn't have they didn't put forth a lot of special treatment for my brother. I really appreciated that they had a standard for him in the home as far as responsibilities. I mean, I come from the era where you got to do your chores before you go outside and play, and they just always had something for all of us to do. And I think that really kind of helped strengthen our bond and a respect for one another. And so, I was the youngest, so I didn't have to carry a lot of the weight of like the household stuff, but we all had our role in the house. And there was just that camaraderie there. And I'd say something that I wish I could have had more of is just real conversations about how I'm feeling. There really wasn't a lot of that. There really wasn't a lot of how's your heart? How are you handling this? How is our family dynamic with your brother affecting you? Like, is this stressful? Like as an adult, you can ask questions like, okay, this is what anxiety could be, or this is what fear could be. Are you feeling these things? And just having that voice would have really, really helped me just in my development, because honestly, I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I know, in the last couple of years, I have a good relationship with my parents, but the last couple of years, now that I'm like an official adult, but my mom will still have me do the dishes and clean stuff when I come to the house. We've had a good connection, but I have had to address things that I was dealing with in my early development, just because there's a lot of suppressed emotions, a lot of suppressed things that no one really triggered that or let those things out. And so I would have hoped that I could have processed through some of those emotions in the moment or closer to the scenario, rather than having to dig through all the stuff stacked on top of that to kind of resolve some of those underlying situations that and scenarios within myself. So that's what I would say.
Thanks, Richard. That how's your heart? That just made me think about, have I ever even asked that question to somebody before? And how powerful of a question that really is to ask, and to be able to share, and to know somebody cared enough to ask you that question, especially in this space. I appreciate all of you guys for being here today. I have a million more questions for you, and unfortunately we don't have a million minutes. So we're ending this session about 2:40, so we're wrapping up right now. But I just want to ask each of you to share two things that what does self-care look like for you? And I think that that's important to leave with, is something, what do you do for you? What does that look like? And we'll just go, we have about 4 minutes, so I think 30 seconds. I think we can do it to make sure we're on time. Katie, I got your message, and make sure that the next segment is all on time. Go ahead, Atikah.
I think the first self-care is to just listen to my body. Right now where I'm at is in academia, and it's just culture of academia. It's just work, 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 work. So part of my self-care is to listen to my body. If I'm tired, let myself be tired and rest. Acknowledging how, just listening to myself, to my body, and just if my head is not in the right space, don't force it. I think that's the main thing that I do for my self-care. And, things out of that, it comes with other branches of things that I do outside, like nature, things like that, or just sleep even. But yeah, I think that's my self-care.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think listening to your body, definitely. And then also to acknowledging and embracing your feelings, whatever those may be, and being okay with feeling certain things. Like if you're feeling sad, it's okay to feel sad. If you're feeling happy, definitely feel happy. It's okay. If you're feeling upset, it's fine. It's just making sure it's being okay with if you're not okay, and doing what you can to make sure you're doing what you can for your body. Yeah, like Atikah said.
Go ahead, Karree. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I was like, where did I go? For me, number one, therapy, best thing I've ever done for myself. That is the best form of self-care for myself, to just talk about my experiences. And the second thing is just like validating my own experiences and just like what I'm feeling, like just that it's okay to feel guilty, ashamed, and that all these things, just like kind of just look back on it and kind of think about that. And that it's like what some people have said, it's okay to not be okay. And just like remember your thoughts matter, remember your feelings matter, and remember that you matter.
I agree. Self-care for me is saying no. It took me a while to learn how to start saying no. It's okay, you cannot do everything. And to me, it's like, I always try to do everything. So definitely saying no is number one for me. And then, learning of the different opportunities or resources is now taking respite, because I do a lot of the things with my sister, but doing it on my own, respite definitely helps.
I would say purchasing Jordan 1s. It's just something about that. It's just something about when my foot goes into the shoe, I just feel peace all over my body. No, but outside of that, and just investing in real relationships, and identifying, who is in my life that really cares to hear from me, and in that, being vulnerable. I feel like as a sibling, I haven't had a chance a lot of the time to just be fully vulnerable, and that has really helped me, just being vulnerable and honest about just all aspects of what's going on inside. So those would be mine.
Well, thank you all. I think we all learned something today. We all got something out of this today. I'm sending a love and light to each and every one of you on here, each and every one of you listening, and get ready for Katie coming back on for the next session. I appreciate you all for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jeniece, and to each of our sibling panelists, Atikah, Adana, Kimrah, Karree, Richard, amazing. And the chat box, I mean, just the way people are resonating, the connections that are being made from everything that each of you shared. Thank you so much. Now we have time for each of you to share some of your sibling stories. And we want this to be a space where you can all share as well as listen and learn from each other. I want to give another reminder to please keep the personal information that you hear in your session confidential. The session will not be recorded. And please share from your own perspective and avoid giving advice. We want this to be a space for creating community and connections, really a judgment-free zone, as Jeniece mentioned. These small groups will be moderated. You'll have a facilitator in your group with some guiding questions to start out. If you get through those questions, then feel free to just let the conversation go as it flows. These small groups will be approximately 30 minutes, and then we'll come back together at the 13 after the hour. So whatever time zone you are, I know we have people all over the world on here today. So at the 13 after the hour, we'll come back together and you will get a 2-minute countdown in your small group. So you'll be able to see that pop up and enjoy your discussions, enjoy listening and learning from each other. And we'll now open up for you to be able to join a small group for the sharing our stories time. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you all had a good time sharing your stories. I think that we have everyone back now. And now is the time where we get to go into breakout sessions. And we have 4 great topics to choose from. I just put them in the chat box. If you want to go to the supported decision-making session, you stay in this room. So there's nothing you need to do, just stay in this room. There's a link to go to the Written Hearts with 3 authors that share about writing books from a sibling perspective. Our breakout room number 3 is From Your House to the White House. And that one has the link there to go to room 3. And then breakout 4 is hashtag Hear Our Voices, Disabled People of Color and Allyship. And that one is 2 self-advocates that are sharing their perspective. So feel free to choose your breakout session. If you're not sure which one, look in the program for more description and go ahead and click on the link to the session that you want to attend. Once you get into your room, the moderator will kick it off right away, and then we'll get started with our breakout sessions. Enjoy.